Far more than the person who goes in to the shop and says, bonjour monsieur, excusez-moi, est-ce que je peux avoir de... Communication has been achieved and can be achieved in quite basic language. Of course, there are levels of communication, there are levels of acceptability in language. But if we start off from the early stages focusing on communication, then of course we can work on increasingly the eloquence with which students speak. It's about using the time we have in the classroom as effectively as possible. If I have 8 students in my class and I stick to a traditional grammar translation teacher-to-student interaction, this means the amount of time each student gets in the swimming pool is very low. However, if I choose to include a lot more pair work, group work, this means the time my students get to communicate is much higher. So it's a teacher not just as the fountain of knowledge, but a teacher as a facilitator. A teacher who, of course, plans lessons, puts together material, but a teacher who is reacting to the needs of the students and not just to the needs of a syllabus necessarily, or the needs of a textbook, or the needs of impressing students with language. Now, rather than go on and talk about this for hours and hours, I would rather show you a brief description, not a lesson plan, but a description of a lesson. And this lesson is based around getting students producing relatively simple structure, used to do. We all know the structure, okay. And I choose this because it's not necessarily an absurdly complicated structure to use, but it's interesting, and I've been experimenting with this with some of the new teachers that come for interviews and demo classes at my school by giving them this, to put together in a demo class and seeing the kind of approaches that these teachers use when they're trying to teach this. And even though they can tell me in the interview, communication, often they will come into the class and this is what they'll do. They'll say, okay class, today we're going to look at a new structure. The structure is used to. We use used to talk about a discontinued past habit. Habit in the past. And the students there, pre-intermediate level students, because this is no different from the Latin teacher at my school who told me I had to learn the dative case, and this was how you formed it. What's a case? What's the dative case? I don't understand, teacher. Quiet, boy. One day you'll need it when the Roman Empire rises again. When you become the Pope. Or it's no different from the maths teacher who told me about dividing fractions. He told me, look, 10, it's easy. You invert and multiply. Or something like that. I may have got that wrong. I'm not good at math. Invert and multiply. And after a while I could do that. But only when the question asked me in the maths exam or the maths test, divide these fractions. When the question was dressed up in a real context, like language is dressed up in the real context of life, then I couldn't do it. It was only when another teacher demonstrated this idea with a birthday cake and cutting it up that I started to understand it. So there must be a different way to teaching a structure like this than announcing it and telling students what it is and then giving a formula and expecting them to use it. But what is that different approach? What would you do?
To show?
Show. How can you show?
Some example, some life situation. I don't know, to create something.
Well, it can be a short story or an anecdote
Yes,
or a
just
joke
something.
about somebody with the expressions like used to that, well, I met there several times.
Okay.
With the presentation and practice. No, presentation and practice, no.
See. Okay, we'll come to that. Yeah, I mean, there are different ways of organizing your lesson, presentation, practice, production, etc., etc. But let's just think, how do we start off this? Because remember, your students are coming to you from all sorts of different places. I mean, literally from home or from work.
Who can use pictures? Two guys. One is very small and doing something actively. I don't know, playing football, something. A lot of pictures. I don't know. And another guy is just middle-aged or something, elderly.
Middle-aged.
Okay, elderly guy. And so he doesn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
He used, I don't know, to play violin and a lot of other things. And no.
So the same guy.
Oh, the same guy.
The same guy.
Peter at the age of
this small little
5 and at the age of 95. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. All right. I mean, there is no one context that works, but that's the key. That students need language in the context, language in real use, because language in life is in real use. And they're coming into a classroom. Usually, they're sitting in the classroom, and if you just announce, or even if you just give a couple of examples, where's this coming from? Context need to be built. So, what I want us to look at then, quickly go through, is this. On these handouts here, I've written a description of a lesson working with this structure. What I want to do, first of all, is to go through it together, and you can share your comments, and we'll talk about it, and then think about how this sort of outline could be used for pretty much any language classroom or whatever level, whatever language point, lexical, grammatical, etc. we want to work on. So, let's see. First of all, let's hand some out.